All right, so today we're really diving into something that's got everyone talking in Kenya.
Definitely a big one.
It's the attempted impeachment of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. And, well, we're going to break this whole thing down, figure out what's going on, who are the big players, and what's really at stake here.
Yeah, and we've got a ton of sources to help us do just that. We're talking parliamentary records, we've got political analysis, even public reactions directly from Kenyans, trying to get a sense of, like, the real impact of all this.
So it's not just some dry, textbook stuff.
No, not at all. This is the real deal.
All right, so I got to admit, I haven't been totally glued to Kenyan news lately.
Yeah.
So for those of us who might need a little refresher, who exactly is Rigathi Gachagua?
Sure.
And what does a deputy president even do in Kenya?
Right, gonna set the scene, yeah. So the deputy president in Kenya, think of them as like second in command. They're the president's right hand, politically speaking anyway. They're super important for keeping the government stable, making sure things run smoothly. And Gachagua, he's been a known figure in Kenyan politics for a while.
Right, I've heard the name.
But gotta say, his time as deputy president has been, well, interesting to say the least.
Interesting. There's one word for it. I mean, this impeachment attempt is huge, right? This is a big deal. How do we even get to this point?
So it all starts with Mwangi Mutus. He's a member of parliament, and let's just say he's not afraid of a little controversy.
Likes to make a splash.
Exactly. He's the one who brought the impeachment charges against Gachagua, and he's got a lot of people backing him up on this. Like, when they voted in parliament, a whopping 281 MPs were all for impeachment, compared to just, 44 against. That's a landslide.
Whoa, yeah, that's not even close. Sounds like Mutu struck a nerve with those accusations. What exactly is he accusing Gachagua of? What are the big claims?
Okay, so there are a few main things. One that really got people's attention was this accusation that Gachagua made statements, right? Statements with, hints of discrimination. Basically how government resources were being handed out.
Oh, so favoring certain groups over others?
That's the idea. Mutus points to a speech where Gachagua supposedly said that government appointments should go to those who, and I'm paraphrasing here, suffered for the cause, which some people took that to mean he's favoring certain communities over others, you see.
Yikes. Yeah, that's definitely a loaded statement. So essentially what Mutus is saying is Gachagua is playing politics with people's, livelihoods.
Exactly. And that really feeds into a much bigger worry in Kenya, right? It's this whole question of fairness, of representation in the government. And in such a diverse country, that's a very sensitive topic to touch.
Absolutely. Okay, so that was one big accusation. But I'm guessing there's more, right? Mutus didn't just stop there.
Oh, no, there's more. Mutus also claims that Gachagua has been going around undermining President William Ruto.
And Ruto is?
Oh, right. Ruto is the current president of Kenya, the big guy, a very important figure in all of this.
Okay, got it.
So Mutis says Gachagua's been making these statements, taking actions that go directly against Ruto's policies, basically making the government look messy and divided to the rest of the world.
Not exactly the message of unity and strength you want to send out as a country, huh? Sounds like a one-way ticket to chaos.
Right. And you got to remember, this is all happening under President Ruto. This is the guy who campaigned on this whole platform of transparency and accountability. And now, boom, these accusations against his own deputy directly contradicts that message.
Yeah, makes you think twice about those family dinners, huh? But, okay, we can't forget about probably the most attention-grabbing accusation here.
I mean, the whole unexplained wealth thing?
Exactly. 5.2 billion shillings. That's a whole lot of shillings, no matter which way you slice it.
It's an insane amount of money, even for someone who's been in politics a long time. Mutus claims that Gachagua, he got all this wealth while he was in office. And to prove it, he's pointing to the fact that Gachagua's sons, both still in their 30s, managed to get these massive loans, huge loans. And Mutus is basically saying, where did all this money come from? Did it come from legitimate business?
It's a question I bet a lot of people would love the answer to, especially in a place where corruption's a serious concern.
Oh, absolutely. It plays into this deep frustration, right? This feeling that the government's corrupt, and it resonates way beyond just those government buildings.
It's like a real-life house of cards over there.
Yeah.
So help me out here. Are these kinds of accusations, just another Tuesday in Kenyan politics?
Yeah.
Or is this really something exceptional?
Well, I mean, you're never going to escape accusations, right? Corruption, political games, it's kind of part of the landscape in Kenya, sadly.
Yeah, it's fair.
But this time, it's different. These allegations against Gachagua, they're serious. And the fact that they're going after the sitting deputy president, that's huge. This isn't some, like, low-level official, this goes right to the top.
This is the core of the system they're shaking up.
Exactly.
So with all this heat on him, how's Gachagua responding to all this? Damage control. Laying low.
He's not exactly hiding under a rock, that's for sure. Gachagua's gone pretty bold with his defense. I mean, he's calling this whole thing a total witch hunt. Says it's all political, just trying to ruin his name and stop him from doing his job.
So playing the victim card a bit.
A little bit, yeah. He says everything he's done has been for the good of Kenya. All his actions, totally above board.
Right. But there was this one part of his defense, and I don't even know if bold covers it. It was more like audacious.
Ah, you must be talking about when he brought up President Ruto, his own boss.
Bingo. Gachagua played those clips, right? Audio of Ruto, back when he wasn't president yet, where he was really giving it to some government officials. What was that about?
It was a power move for sure. Almost like he was saying, hey, if the president can criticize the government, why can't I?
Yeah. Like, don't act so innocent. You've been there.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that saying, if you're going down, you're taking everyone with you.
Right. Except in this case, it's more like, if I'm going down, I'm taking the president with me.
Mm.
Not exactly the best way to make friends.
Definitely not winning any diplomacy awards with that one.
Yeah.
So where do things stand now? Who decides Gachagua's fate?
It's all up to the Kenyan Senate now. They're the ones who have the final say.
So this is it, huh? The climax of the drama.
Pretty much. The Senate, they'll have this whole trial, examine all the evidence against Gachagua, and then they vote. He either stays in office or he's out.
No pressure or anything. This is like historic, right? This hasn't happened before.
You got it. If Gachagua gets removed, it'd be the very first time a deputy president has been impeached under their 2010 Constitution. We're talking setting a major precedent here.
Wow. Talk about a legacy. But I got to ask, and I bet some of our listeners are thinking the same thing, why should we care? This is all the way over in Kenya. What's it got to do with, like, the average person?
That's totally fair. But this is about way more than just Kenyan politics, okay? This gets at the heart of how a democracy works. The whole point is that even the most powerful people, they're not above the law. They can be held accountable.
Right. It's bigger than just Gachagua.
Exactly. This is about upholding the whole system, making sure those in power, they're held to the highest standard.
It makes you think, the balance between power and being held responsible for that power.
Absolutely. And the really interesting thing is, the ripple effects of this case, they could be huge. Not just in Kenya, but for other democracies around the world too, how they deal with corruption, abuse of power, all of it.
It's a global thing when you really get down to it.
Mm-hmm.
So with all this going on, what's the mood like in Kenya itself? How are people reacting to all this political drama? So everyone's watching this play out, I imagine. What's the vibe like in Kenya itself? How are people handling all this?
Oh, it's a mixed bag, for sure. It's like, you can have a whole spectrum of opinions. It's a complicated situation, right? Our sources show that, yeah, there's a lot going on. Some people are breathing a sigh of relief,
Really?
Yeah. They see this whole thing, this attempt to impeach him, as a sign that finally the rules apply to everyone, that no one's above the law.
Thanks, Ed.
They see it as a win for transparency, like a step towards less corruption.
Yeah, that finally moment. But I'm guessing not everyone's out celebrating, right?
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
There's a whole other group who are worried sick about what this could mean for stability. Kenya, they've had their share of political turmoil in the past, and these people, they're afraid that even if it's all legal and above board, getting rid of a sitting deputy president could stir up old tensions, old rivalries,
Yeah, it's like almost a power vacuum. Someone's going to try to fill it one way or another.
Exactly. And that worries people. They're worried about the economy, security, just the overall well-being of the country. Can't really blame them.
It's tough, No easy answers. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more complicated, we hear Gachagua's legal team is going on the offensive. They want to challenge the whole impeachment process itself in court.
Yep, they're throwing a wrench in the works, that's for sure.
So this could all just fizzle out.
It's a possibility. See, if the court sides with Gachagua's lawyers, if they decide there were problems with how they did the impeachment procedural stuff, it could completely derail the Senate trial. Everything gets tossed out. Gachagua stays put.
Wow, so it's like a whole other layer of drama on top of the drama.
Exactly. On the one hand, you've got the courts deciding if this whole thing was even legal, And on the other, you've still got that potential Senate trial where they look at the actual accusations.
Like, who thought of this system? It's intense.
But it's important, right? This is the heart of how a democracy works. You've got different parts of the government, like keeping each other in check. Parliament, they're trying to hold the deputy president accountable. And then you've got the courts. They're like the referees, making sure everyone's playing fair.
Checks and balances, right? We learned that in, like, grade school.
Exactly. But you see it playing out for real right here. And it makes you think, because no matter what happens with Gachagua, this whole thing, it's got people talking about what's next for Kenyan politics, you know?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? What does happen next?
Will this be a turning point? Will we see real change, more transparency, officials being held responsible? Or will it just make the divisions worse? More uncertainty. We'll have to see.
I guess some things. Only time will tell.
That's the truth. But one thing's for sure, the whole world's watching how this plays out in Kenya.
And that's our deep dive for today. The attempted impeachment of Kenya's deputy president, a story of power, politics, and accountability that clearly is far from over. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on what happens, and we hope you will too. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and remember, sometimes the most important stories, they come from the places you least expect.